Right, we are here the 10th of January. Is it the 11th for you, Medyhne?
Yes.
Oh, so it's already my husband's birthday tomorrow. It's my husband's
Aw.
birthday, the 11th. So in Australia, it's already his birthday. Not that I'm doing anything special for it. Hey ho. So I've mentioned it here. So
Just being there's enough, Catherine.
I know, you're his gift. You're his gift.
Yeah,
That's everything.
I'm going to let him have a special cuddle with the guinea pigs. What more could you do for your birthday? So before we get into our lovely conversation, how are you both doing? How are you doing, Brice?
Good. It's crazy times we're living in.
Crazy times on a personal and thing. So you might decide whether you want to share some of that.
Yeah, someone tried to hack into my YouTube channel last night multiple times. Thank you, Google, for blocking that. I woke up with a bunch of things on my phone asking for me to enter in numbers to verify, and I have 2 different emails that back up, and I had a bunch of alerts. I know exactly what country it came from, not the United States. And it was an old password that was being used that I recently had changed about like 6 weeks ago, maybe 2 months ago, that someone was trying to get multiple times. Now, if it was just one time, maybe I would have let it go, but it was multiple times over the course of the night that someone was trying to hack into my YouTube channel. I'm pretty sure I know exactly who it is. And LOL, it didn't work. So joke's on you. My channel's still up.
I've had some weird and wonderful things happening as well. So what about you, Medyhne? How are things with you?
Well, personally, on a personal level, I'm going quite well. I'm being really mindful of my physical body at the moment. I find that, when I look at all my bodies, my emotional, my spiritual, my mental, my physical, the other 3 are going quite well, but it's my physical body that lags behind. So constantly upgrading ways that I can improve my physical health, being able to energetically, integrate all these higher frequencies that are coming through as well, because I'm feeling this shifting happening, and my body has to keep up. So I'm actually getting a lady to come and work with strength training this week. So she's starting with me this week. So that's exciting. And I bought a cold pressed juicer, so I can cold press, juices, and they come out really, really beautiful with a cold pressed juicer.
Yeah.
So that's really positive. And, I do things like I've got my nanosoma. I don't know if people have heard of that. This is fantastic. And my Healy, I've got a Healy device as well, which I use. So all these physical things, there we are. And so my little physical body is just having an upgrade at the moment. So I'm trying to really nurture and look after that. You can actually talk to your body like it's a person and say, what do you need right now? And your body will talk to you. It has its own intelligence. And it's going, yeah, come on, up the ante. Do more at the minute. So,
we were talking about that before we came on a bit, and it was interesting. I can always remember having a chat with my dad and saying how we've moved into a society where we feel we have to go to a club to do things. And when you look at the human anatomy and what we're designed to do, I mean, I do a lot of this in my work because I work with animals, and one of the main things I work with humans and their animals is looking at the environment that the animals have evolved to live in and how we can replicate that as much as possible whilst keeping them reasonably safe, which is another area we're going to talk about today. And because, if any time you're bringing another species into a human environment, it comes with certain challenges with it. And it's fascinating how much we've moved away from doing things that we don't have to pay for. So, like I spend a lot of time and I get very fit just by looking after my animals every day. And not only does that then get me out in nature, but it also gets me moving an awful lot all throughout the day, rather than just for 1 hour a day, for example. And chopping wood, we've been chopping wood this weekend, and gardening, and all the things that sort of were designed to do that we don't necessarily have to pay and go to a sports club to do. It's fascinating, isn't it? I mean, obviously everyone's lifestyle is different, but there's so many simple things you can do, even day-to-day cleaning and things like that, walking instead of getting in the car, that can make a huge difference, can't they?
Yeah, for sure. Well, I think too, especially here in America, and I think a lot of the Western world is very similar this way. In a lot of ways, we've been so spoiled. I remember being a little kid and sitting in church one Sunday, and the pastor was talking about the Lord's Prayer and how, it says, "Give us, Lord, our daily bread." And now we're like, please, God, let me resist the bread. We're just so abundantly provided for in our world that we now view exercise almost like it's a punishment in order to look and appear a certain way. And I grew up, my mother was always doing like Richard Simmons jazzercise and always going on diets. And so I kind of grew up, I think as a child of the 80s, that was a big thing back then, the low fat diets, Weight Watchers, all that kind of stuff. But when I started really going deep into traditional yoga, that's when my perception of exercise actually changed. And I saw it as this time to explore your body and to see how powerful and magical your body actually is. You have everything you need inside of you. You have all these muscles. You are provided with everything, energetically, spiritually, physically. And part of what exercise does for a lot of people is it helps them become grounded in their body and then attuned to what's happening in their body. And the Yoga Sutras does talk about, like, first you're looking at dealing with the gross body, which is just your physical body. So many people are living outside of their body. And then all of a sudden you start to become aware of these like subtle things happening. And then it connects to your breath and the inhale of creating energy through the inhale with the exhale kind of deflates a little bit and it reaches different energetic points of the body. It becomes this like magical time. And I'm hoping as we like move forward that people will stop like going to the gym to try to punish themselves to get into a particular size jean and actually use that time. If you're going to a gym or if you're doing something, use that time to explore the abilities that your body actually has, that you were born with. Does that make sense?
Oh, yes. And your body is such a expression of Mother Earth too. So it's like another form of Mother Earth. So when you're working with your body, you can think of yourself as a Mother Earth as well. And your body has this cellular memory where every part of every cell, every part of your body, every atom has a like a consciousness. And so when you work with different parts of the body, you're triggering different consciousness and you're able to release stored information. Connect to your own universal wisdom, all that sort of thing. So that it's such a magical, incredible thing, the body, that is so misunderstood, and it has such a depth of information for us, and it actually wants us to have an open communication channel with it so that we can chat to it and it can really tell us what it needs.
It's so true. And equally with, the sort of the animals in our lives are always trying to tell us that as well. And like anything, whether it's physical, spiritual, emotional, if you ignore those signs, the messages come stronger and stronger and stronger. And I, quite a few years ago now, got into, my body reacts in certain quite predictable ways, often to stress and lack of sleep. And then what I realized is you can really, just like you were saying, Medyhne, really talk to your body. And so if, for example, I'm quite prone to headaches if I'm stressed, and then if I then speak to my body, if I get a headache and ask it what the message is, what message am I not getting, I get that message straight away. And then when I tell my body that, thank you, I've got the message, it doesn't need to tell me anymore, it does go and it works. It's amazing. Unless it's giving me a message that I'm resistant to, and then it might take a bit longer. But it's just incredible, and people, I've shared this with other people, and some people are really, really skeptical and just don't be so ridiculous. But from personal experience, it's so, so powerful, and it works every time for me.
And I love the little prayer. Oh, sorry, Brice.
No, go ahead.
We're also keen to chat about this. I love the little prayer. Dear body, I love you. I appreciate you. I honor you. Thank you for being in perfect health. And this, little prayer that you can say to your body all the time. And it's, if you say it out loud, it's like a really affirmation, I guess, that your body is listening to. And it's helpful.
And have you ladies heard of, I know I've maybe spoken about this occasionally, but the Ayurvedic system of the body dosha, the body dispositions,
Yeah.
that, and that's what a lot of people in the West don't understand, that each and every one of us have a different composition of energy in our body. And this will dictate some of your personality traits as well as your physicality. And those different compositions and dispositions of body require different forms of action. And when you start to actually feed your body off of this system, this old ancient system, what balances it, for me, it changed my life. It changed the way I ate. It changed the way I viewed exercise. I understood the pitfalls because of certain dispositions. And at least in America, everyone has this like weird idea that one size fits all when it comes to like movement. And that's not the case. You know, for me, like for my dosha, I'm a vata pitta. My leading is vata. That's why I'm very bony. That's why I have a lot of, that's the kind of the vata. And so I have to worry about like stretching into my tendons and not my muscle. Like you can start to, anyway, it's very fascinating when you start. And a lot of women who are like kapha women, next life I want to be kapha because they're very buttery and flexible, but they tend to gain weight easily. And so a lot of women who are kapha want to be vata, but vatas want to be kapha. And it's like, but when you start working with what you are and the elements of nature that correspond to that, because vata is air, pitta, fire, kapha, like earth, water, then you can like actually balance yourself. And that goes with food as well. You know, as a vata, I crave vata foods, which is like fruits, salads, anything that grows up, but that's not what I should be eating, because I have too much vata. So I have to eat like grounded root vegetables. I have to eat kapha foods to then balance out my body energy. And it literally changed my life. And I'm hoping as we watch the matrix crumble, that these old ancient teachings that our ancestors knew about will come to the forefront. You know,
that reminds me of looking at the blood types as well.
Yep.
You know, for example, the A blood type is not one that digests or integrates meat products very well,
right.
and they say it can lead to cancer because the body just can't break it down. So yeah, that's another way of really going into the body, the body intelligence and finding out what it aligns with.
Yeah, it's fascinating.
Yeah, like everything we talk about, you know, in general with what's going on in that, you know, we've had so many conversations, the three of us, with each other and other people, about really tuning into your intuition, your gut feel, etc. But when your body's giving you feedback all the time, and I was just on a call before this with a lovely company that I work with a lot because their products are so amazing, and we were really diving deep into gut health, which is a major issue. And every single animal that I work with has got major imbalances in their gut because of all the toxins, because of the inappropriate food that they're fed, because of the stress that we put them under, because we make lifestyle decisions for them that aren't in their best interest and aren't suited to that species. And when you look after your gut, whatever that might mean, and that's a whole probably seminar in itself, but when you look after that, then your gut feel, your intuition starts giving you the right messages, because we all know, whether you're using any tool, whether it's a pendulum, whether it's cards, whether it's your intuition, whatever it might be, you can get that message can be corrupted if that tool isn't cleansed and healthy.
Yeah.
And that's the same with our bodies. If we don't keep our bodies as cleansed and healthy, and we don't need to be perfect, we just need to be aware when things are going off kilter so that we can do a course correct.
Yeah.
I'm finding that as the energies are shifting and we're moving into these, you know, more and more ascension, that your body needs less and less food, and it's telling you to just, you know, cut way back. And, you know, one meal a day for me pretty much is enough. And personally, and if I have too much more than that, I just feel really bloated and really heavy. And, you know, this is a real shift from when I was young, where, you know, you'd have regularly, you know, 3 meals a day and then you'd still potentially be hungry. But there's a real energetic shift in what our bodies are needing. And it's because we're changing the crystalline cellular structure of our anatomy as everything shifts. And so also the liquid diets are becoming much more sort of suitable for our bodies as well, organic, fruits and vegetables, and in liquid form, that smoothies and things. So that's a really noticeable shift. And so many people I talk about that, how that they can't eat the same amounts that they maybe even ate, 6 months ago. So that's really interesting.
And a lot of that is because this is I glitched to what this is my day-to-day world. I love it so much. A lot of it is because a lot of the food that we're consuming isn't real food anymore, and it's so toxic because of the way it's processed, the way the products that are used during the germination, the growing, the harvesting, the packaging, even when it's on the supermarket shelves and our bodies. So when, like you were saying, Medyhne, when you juice things, if your gut is in a suboptimal health, and virtually every person's and animals are, when you put it in a liquid format, you take the strain off the body having to assimilate and those products into your body. It makes it a lot easier. And I think, as you say, energetically, as we're all shifting, that fits the pattern so well, doesn't it, in terms of what we're looking to do, and not make life difficult for ourselves, because at the moment, a lot of the time, our major organs do, because we overconsume so much. I mean, when I wasn't very well over Christmas, I was saying to you both, I think last week or the week before, my appetite went down, but it's because normally I overconsume because everything's so readily available. I'm lucky enough to live in a country, in a part of the country, and have an income where I can more or less eat what I want when I want. And therefore,
could be changing very quickly, Catherine.
It is. Well, it already is over here, massively so. The inflation prices are so ridiculous now.
But also the shelves are getting empty now here. I'm noticing that with these food in Australia here, with the food chain supply issues that are happening, and whether they're manipulated or not. I saw an article saying that they were stashing stuff up in the supermarkets in the back because they weren't allowed to stock everything on the shelves, but they're getting emptier and emptier. So it's like, we're going to have to address these issues of overconsumption and also our attachment to food emotionally, what it does for us emotionally, when we're feeling really awful. I personally, I've got in the habit from when I was little, my mum would make a cup of tea every time she felt bad. And so, that sort of subconscious attachment that you have to feel better by having that cup of tea when something goes wrong or you're feeling stressed. And, we do that on so many levels with food and with all the sensual aspects of the body. People are really having to deal with any form of dependencies or addictions now.
Yeah. No, down here in the South, we have what's called soul food, and that's a big part of our culture down here, is to have these big, like, Sunday lunches, everything's fried. And that's how a lot of people show their love down here in the South. Is like, my grandfather was one of these people. Every time I went to not my grandmother, it was my grandfather. He constantly wanted to feed you. It was constantly a need for him to feed you. And that was the way he showed his love. And I know a lot of people associate food with that kind of family, community, family meals, all that kind of stuff. And it's confusing the action of eating with the sharing of love. That's what you're missing, was that family dinner table, especially, I mean, I feel like my generation was the very last generation to kind of actually have a proper childhood, because we didn't have cell phones or internet. I think I was like the last cutoff before that actually happened. So we played outside, we had family meals. There was not, we sat at the dinner table as a family on Sundays. It was not what it is now. Everyone's on an iPad or an iPhone. And so, but looking back on that, it was the commute. It was having that relationship with people. And that, I think, is what, but again, of course, I'm sitting here thinking about, there are cultural things, like we drink a lot of, if you ask a Southerner what they think a glass of tea is, they're going to tell you iced tea, sweet tea, and ice. Because that's what we drink down here. And like, my grandmother was from South Georgia, so she would make her sweet tea with like pineapple juice and like all this sugar, real sugar, real, drop biscuits, which for us, biscuits are like, they're not cookies, they're like bread, they drop the dough and cook it. And so there is kind of that. And I do think, especially when things get stressful and people go into a place of sadness or loneliness, they're trying to get back to a place of happiness, and they'll go and take the cup of tea or the cookie or go make a casserole their mom did just to feel better, instead of actually dealing with the issue of being sad or lonely as it's presented itself to you through your body, through your emotions, if that makes sense.
Yeah, because it's right back to your survival instincts. Obviously, food and water and shelter are key survival instincts. So anytime you feel those stress levels go up, that's what your body kicks back into. And now, of course, we evolved into, well, whether you believe in evolution or not, that's a whole other discussion. But
who knows at this point?
The species of however many strands of DNA we've got, in a time where we actually had to go and forage for our food. Just like if you look now, if I watch my horses and everything, you know, they were designed to move huge amounts of time, because they're not designed to be in a field of one species of grass, and we're not designed to not move. We're designed to listen, and this again, self-selection, zoopharmacognosis, self-medicating, all your different body types, depending on the stresses that your mind and body are going through. We would go and naturally seek out different foods, clays, lichens, all sorts of foods and herbs. So foods for subsistence, growth and reproduction, but also medicinal herbs for actually healing our mind and body and soul. But because now we can just sit there and order it online or go to the supermarket and get it, we've cut out that essential bit, which then comes back to the physical health. So it's fascinating how these modern lifestyles, and look at what they're trying to do now with virtual reality. You know, they'll just plug you into the Internet of Things and you'll imagine it and it will arrive on your plate, or you won't even need to eat it because they'll be feeding it into you some other way, sort of thing. But
that's why I love the Anastasia books, because Anastasia would just go and pick a berry that she needed at the time that she needed it, as she lived in the Russian forest. And, you know, it takes us back to all that. And as you were talking, then you were talking about past lives. And I remembered a past life. I have a subconscious cellular memory of when I was in India, and I was only young, and I was, you know, scavenging for food. And I lived a pretty short life in that life because, you know, I died of starvation. So, you know, I have a memory of that there in the background. And, you know, many of us have had so many lifetimes that you know, we have all these cellular memories. And so, you know, there's all these subconscious patterns and triggers that we're also dealing with that we don't necessarily consciously recognize or understand.
It's like people who grew up in the Great Depression, or who had well, we didn't grow up in the Great Depression, but had like grandparents that grew up in the Great Depression, and all of a sudden, like, you had to clean your plate. Like, it wasn't an option to leave food behind. Like that trauma was in them of, you have to clean your plate, everything, because you don't know what if that happens again and we don't have food. You know, it's so funny, when I was a little kid talking about scavenging for food. Do you guys have honeysuckles in England or Australia?
We do.
Down here in the South, as kids, we used to go pick the honeysuckles. For those that don't have honeysuckles, it's like this little flower you pick, and you can pull part of it out and has little drops of like nectar. That's really, but we used to do that all the time as kids on the playground. At school, we go pick honeysuckles. And for years that was okay. Then at one year, our teacher got really upset because of pesticides. Like, were they spraying it? But you think about that as kids. I was like, God, we used to just do that. We used to just go pick honeysuckles. That was normal for us down here to do out at our house. It's everywhere here. And then all of a sudden now we've been told not to do that because they're spraying all the plants. But it is natural. That is natural for human beings to want to go and pick from nature.
I used to eat sour grass. It was long and it was sort of a little bit sour, but it was really nice to eat. And I would notice that our dogs would go and eat it as well, you know, and so you'd see what the animal goes to eat, and then it's okay to eat.
It's very, very true. I mean, my son was born, and he, right from being a toddler, he could always self-medicate. And when he used to come out on the horses with me, he'd be sitting there as a tiny toddler and just helping himself, and he never got it wrong. He never got it wrong in terms of what he could eat and what it was safe to eat and what it wasn't. It was amazing, absolutely amazing. And this brings me on to another subject that we were going to talk to about today, about sort of free choice and free will, because I've heard a lot of really interesting, fascinating discussions about this regarding to the current situation that's going on, and from both extreme sides of the argument about how a lot of people, their definition of free will is what they want to happen, and the other side are wrong and shouldn't be allowed free will. And also with the children, like Medyhne, you were just saying that in Australia, which we've already got in other countries, the younger children now are wanting to have this.
5 to 11-year-olds started yesterday. They're trying to really push that at the moment.
And in no way, you know, so at what age, but both young and old, different species, you know, I don't let my animals have free will because we've got a road outside the house. Yeah. So if I let my dogs go anywhere they wanted to, there would be human environment things that could cause them significant danger. So what has this last year taught you two about free will?
Well, as far as consenting, I mean, no means no, regardless of what situation you're in. No means no. But it's interesting. I was saying before we got on that this is something I know is a cosmic law, and like all levels of life, it's this idea of consent. But at what extent? You're right, because I mean, my dog is a rescue from India, and we rescued him at he was a puppy. Now, other dogs I've brought back from India, they understand cars. So they're good outside. Ravi, my dog, because he was such a puppy, does not understand cars. And so he has a hard time on a leash. I think he's better off leash. But we cannot, like, obviously in the city, it's a law. He has to be leashed anyway, but we could not let him, if he was let off of a leash, he'd be hit by a car by now. Yeah. Because he just does not understand what a car is. But you know, in the one thing I've been, in the Bhagavad Gita, there's this idea of what they call dharma. And I know a lot of people have probably heard this word before. And basically what dharma is, it's your life plan. It's your life purpose, that we were all born with a template of what we were supposed to do in this life, a soul contract, whatever you want to call it. And so there are certain things that are going to happen to you in your life that you don't really, you chose it, but before you took your body, you just don't remember. And so the concept of the free will then comes down to, how are you going to react to the obstacles presented to you? How are you going to, if they're going to happen anyway, how are you internally going to respond to that? Are you going to lose your shit? Are you going to be able to be calm and cool and collective and learn from it? So that's a whole other perception on free will that we don't really hear much in the Western world, of really just how you respond to what you've already agreed to. Does that make sense? I mean,
absolutely.
Yes. I have a great post here on Dharma. Can I share it, Catherine?
Yeah.
I was able to find it. I love that concept of Dharma that you're talking about, Brice. Here,
I've pressed.
Can you see that?
No, we can't. You'll just have to.
Is it coming up now?
Right. Okay.
I see it. Yes.
Yes. So what I really want you to focus on is asking yourself how you can serve humanity, and asking yourself what your unique talents are, because you have a unique talent that no one else has, and you have a special way of expressing that talent, and no one else has it. So that's Deepak Chopra talking about Dharma. And I know there's issues with people talking about Deepak Chopra at the moment, but aside from all that, you know, it's such an interesting concept, because that also ties in with free will, doesn't it?
Yeah, well, it's funny you say that, because with the dark players, I've said this on my channel a lot, with the dark players, darkness can't create anything, only light can. So what he's talking about, even if, regardless of what your opinions on him is, he's talking about a spiritual principle that was created by the light. So
yes,
yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. So exactly. Yeah.
And don't shoot the message if you don't like the messenger.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I think that happens a lot, actually. And of course, everyone's going through different stages in their life. So I think so many people that are in the public eye, whether they're sports people, whether they're, you know, look at Novak Djokovic at the moment, with all controversy about him being let into Australia. And then everyone's showing the pictures of his hand over his eye and everything. And you're like, every person, even when they're in this physical body they're in now, is going through so many different stages. And a part of, we always talk about learning from your mistakes, and you know, some people don't learn from their mistakes, and some people make conscious choices to continue behaving a certain way, but other people have to be in a situation to know and then learn something from it. So to make these snap judgments about things, and it's hard not to, given what we've all been going through, but it never normally serves us well, because you can, as Brice and I have had quite a few conversations about recently, we all know what assumptions make an arse out of you and me, and it's very, very true. But I think what I found really fascinating, and absolutely I've been guilty of it, is we talk about free will and we do it, but it's so much more complex than I think most people realize. So take an example of perhaps us saying, you know, the mainstream media needs to be taken down because it's giving misinformation. Well, there's such a huge debate just about that in terms of the free will debate, and how much someone actually has free will if they've been mind controlled.
Right.
It's so much more complex, isn't it, than a black and white.
Oh yeah, nothing is black and white. It's all, everything are shades of gray, everything. In fact, I know from my studies in psychology, black and white thinking is a sign of a mental issue, a mental illness. When you snap to black and white with things, that's a sign of a mental illness, because most things are shades of gray. And that is very interesting. I think what that comes down to is, well, it comes down to censorship then, right? Like if we allow everything to be freedom of speech, to give people that free will, then we have to allow everything to be freedom of speech.
I think there's safety parameters that have to be considered. You know, what actually is destructive for humanity, what serves humanity. When it comes to a point where something's not safe, I think you have to have firm boundaries.
I agree. I was going to come on to the boundaries. So take an example that we will all experience on a daily basis. So when this video goes up, we allow comments on the video. And I will personally, and I know you guys do too, choose to delete certain comments. But by deleting certain comments, you then get comments back by sort of saying, and it doesn't happen very often, I must say, touch wood, quick, but I'm not deleting them because I'm stopping someone having the free will to make it, because anyone can make the comments or not, but I've got the free will as to whether I choose to have that energy on my channel. So it's really, really fascinating. I have thought long and hard about that. But for example, I'm very much the type of person that believes, you know, everything has energy. The words, the thoughts, particularly when you put it down in writing, is very powerful sort of energy. So people can write what they want, but I can also choose what I choose to leave there on mine if I want to harbour a certain positive energy for the greater collective, for example. And I think this is where I love some of the conversations that I've had David Icke to say. So like, I love having a healthy debate with people, but it doesn't mean you have to agree with them. You know, we've all had people that we might have spoken to in the cafe, on a public channel, whatever, but you can have that brilliant conversation with them and you do not have to agree with each other. That's fine.
Yeah,
well,
you still learn.
You're a co-creator and you're steering the direction that you want your universe to go in. So if you want to absorb your life in negativity, then you accept all that negative stuff that's coming towards you and you allow that to continue. But if you want to steer your life in a direction of, you know, more positivity and upliftment and things, you create a world around you that resonates only in that sort of frequency and vibration. And so I think you're painting a canvas and you have to be mindful of what you want on that canvas, and the things that you don't want on that canvas, you do have to have firm boundaries with.
Yeah. Well, that's it. I know when I take comments down, it's usually because there's nothing productive in the comment. It's either something very nasty towards me or to somebody else in the comment, where there is no constructive criticism. There is no healthy debate. It's just nasty. And that, it's a boundary. I don't want my channel to be a place for, I don't think you guys do either, for there to be like just nastiness. You know, that's not critical thinking skills. I'm all about critical thinking skills. I mean, I was having a conversation this morning with Liz, who's a big TikToker, and we were talking about the fear of being wrong, and how I think she was saying she's moving into a place where she's not afraid of being wrong anymore, because that's how you learn. And so it's, you know, we need to have that healthy critical thinking debate where we can maybe see things differently and listen to the other person. We're so busy listening to respond that we're not listening to understand sometimes. You know, and I know I'm guilty of that. I know I'm totally guilty of that.
Listening to defend your position, as opposed to listening to be open to hearing more information that might make you have a different way of perceiving the world. And I think when you're feeling insecure or in self-esteem, then you have a tendency to want to defend your own beliefs and your own systems, and that is going to be counterproductive.
Yeah. Do you think also one of the things is all of these sort of universal laws like free choice, free will, they don't sit in isolation either. They sit with the other universal laws as well. So for example, of do no harm to others, which is actually a really tricky one, because even if you're vegan, you're still eating in the plants. So, you know, where do you take it to? But I think the other thing sometimes where we get into a tricky situation from a human perspective, because we're working so much from here rather than necessarily in balance between the heart and head, is none of these things are meant to be used in isolation, you know, so they're meant to be used with healthy boundaries. They're meant to be used in terms of, you know, doing no harm and contributing to the world in a good way. So when you take anything in isolation, it could be misconstrued, do you think?
Yes, absolutely. You know, it's funny you were saying that about like vegans eating plants, and in the law of one, the raw material, they talk about the laws of forgiveness, and that the spiritual realm has different, they take each person's existence and they take into account the timeline you're on and what is culturally acceptable into your built up karma. So they have these laws of forgiveness. So like they talk about like I'm a vegetarian. I've been a vegetarian for a very long time. However, because like we all do, we come from a Western world where meat is a part of our diet. They don't hold eating meat against Westerners like they would against somebody who is maybe raised in India, because in the culture in India, it's 80% vegetarian. So even the universe doesn't hold these laws in isolation. They consider the bigger picture when evaluating your karma, your work in that I mean laws of forgiveness too. This blew me away. So like, and I'm the person, if I have an insect in my house, I will go pick it up in paper and put it outside, especially before my dog gets to it, because my dog's a little serial killer with insects, so I have to get it out before he gets to it. But even if you're like walking through the woods, are you looking down and making sure you're not stepping on ants? So
that's a fantastic point. That's a fantastic point. I think that each person's individual consciousness is taken into account for what they're actually understanding. So if you do something that's maybe in some way harmful to the universe, but you're not consciously aware that that's the case, that's evaluated differently from somebody who is aware that they're doing something wrong. And so that's a brilliant point. And I also think there's such a thing as a karmic credit system. It's like a bank balance. and you attain through your universal service to humanity, your service to others, you're able to build up a karmic sort of like a credit, and so that's taken into account, or your karmic debt if you're not on track with being benevolent in the universe. So all those things I think are considered, and that's really important when you're moving forward in the world, being aware of all that, that you are being seen on higher levels, and your soul is actually watching itself, so it's evaluating itself at the same time.
I notice there's so much with animals, because we all make decisions with the best awareness of, well, a lot of people make decisions with the best of the awareness.
Not all of them.
And then you learn something and you just think, oh my God, what was I thinking? I didn't realize that. And I had a huge awakening when I learned, for years I was a vegetarian. And by the way, folks, before you bash it, there is a huge difference between a healthy eating vegetarian and Bill Gates Beyond Burgers or whoever.
Yeah,
makes
absolutely.
them.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
not talking about processed man-made plastic food. But then someone told me about dairy cattle, and of course how most, not all, there are some ethical ones, but how most dairy. And I was like, how did I not realize this? You know, I'm a woman, I've breastfed my children. How did I not put two and two together? I just didn't think of it. I didn't ask the question. Yeah. We've spoken on numerous occasions about how important it is to keep questioning things. So for example, you know, when people with their animals, most people wouldn't have an animal unless they really love them.
Right.
But we often make bad decisions. I've had some discussions with mutual friends of ours this week about dog starts, for example, and dogs need
my dog
to humans, because anatomically and physically they're designed to eat different things. So, for example, they can't process carbohydrates the same way we can. So, but the difference is you hope that when you learn something that you make that change. And most people and animals and nature in the universe are really forgiving to that. I find that, you know, so long as you sort of, as your awareness shifts, your behavior shifts, then I think it's a win-win-win situation, and everyone's.
Well, I have to plug you, Catherine, because you literally have saved my boy Ravi, because he's had just, this is your commercial break for Catherine. She's so amazing. No, my dog has had so many issues since we got him from India because of with allergies, and we've gone through so many different foods, so many, and he gets ear infections, and we were studied all the different food products. And I talked to Catherine yesterday, and she sent me some stuff and to start making him some food, because I can tell when he is actually feeling better. He's happier, he's more playful. And I think that's my father is a veterinarian growing up. And honestly, to tell you the truth, he always diagnosed us before the human doctors did, because like Catherine, like a lot of veterinarians, animals can't tell you where it hurts. They can't really tell you. You have to figure, well, yeah, I know you can communicate with animals, but you have to kind of figure it out. And Catherine knew right away what was going on with Robbie. And so I'm going to plug her. So you guys should totally check out her businesses, because she knows what she's talking about. So,
and also you can do energy healing on him too. So
yes.
Going in energetically and seeing, tuning into what his issues are, on that sort of personality level, or, you know, on that emotional, mental, spiritual level, and do some work on that, and just send him.
He had Reiki once. He had Reiki one time.
Yeah. How did he go?
He was so hyper. He like ran up the walls. I was like, and it was right before bedtime too. So I was like, oh God.
What have I done?
Next time we're going to do it early in the morning. So he
it obviously worked.
Yes. But I tell you guys, like, you guys, when I post this on my channel, Catherine, I'm going to put your links down below, because Catherine's a genius. Talk about Dharma. Like, that's obviously part of Dharma.
Yeah, it is. And I just I love all these discussions, because you sort of, I have all these questions in my head, and I think, I know who I can talk to these about. You guys, because I think it is really, really fascinating to sort of keep questioning these and having these awarenesses, because, you know, we've talked about this before, Brice, about how when we grew up at school, we were still allowed to have healthy debates about things. And you had to sometimes put forward an argument for something you completely disagreed in, but that teaches you critical thinking and to keep an open mind, because there's been so many things in my life where with greater awareness I've changed my mind on, and I know there still will be. And I think especially with what's coming up this year, however much we all think we know, there's going to be so many things that we're absolutely gobsmacked about, and people that we might have misjudged, and on both sides perhaps. I mean, imagine if we find out that Bill Gates is a good guy.
Well, that was
counseling for a year.
Well, they say like AOC is actually a good guy.
Yeah.
And Jen Psaki, that they're both incredible actresses. We'll just put it that way.
Yeah. I mean,
and when I heard that, I was like, what? Like, I was like, that's wild. So yeah, you know, it's so funny.
When you think about CGI and you know, all the advanced level of all the masks and everything like that, it's just, nothing that you're watching these days seems to be real on any level. Although the three of us are.
Yes, no, we're real. We're totally real.
Yeah.
No mask, no mask.
One of these days we'll take our masks off and then we'll shine. So I have to keep my mouth shut because my lizard tongue might come out. So by the way, in all seriousness, I have started a counselling session for all the poor real lizards. Have been so
traumatized.
Counselling sessions because of course everyone's been so rude about lizards, and I've got friends who've got pet lizards and they're gorgeous.
I have lovely water dragons. They're so beautiful here where I live.
They're just amazing. So we're not talking about those lizards, all right.
Yes. Owls and goats, all the. I can actually touch my tongue to my nose, so my lizard can so that was quite a trick when I was in middle school to do. So but yeah, no, you do. And I think too, one thing, I don't know if we've talked about this, Catherine, but the power, I think we've talked about the power of I don't know, of just being able to say, I don't know. And I'll tell you, when I first started studying, before I went to India, I started studying with a man named David Garrigues up in Philadelphia. And he's one of the like leading teachers when it comes to traditional yoga. The guy is like incredible chanter. He can just, he just knows everything when it comes to philosophy, and just one of the best, the cream of the crop. And I remember sitting in a conference with him, and people would ask these really, when you're talking about something, anything spiritual, you get people who ask very intense questions, very vulnerable questions. And you'd hear these questions asked, and you'd hear his respond, and you learn from this. But then I remember one day somebody asked him something, and he just looked at the person and said, I don't know. And it was so powerful for me. I was probably in my early 30s at that point, just to hear, or maybe late 20s actually, just to hear someone that I looked up to as so experienced and so knowledgeable, to hear him actually say, I don't know, was so powerful. And I didn't think less of him at all. I actually thought more of him for being able to admit, like, I don't have the answer for you. And that gave me, and I think we're like, people want to always have the answers. They always want to be right. And, it's funny, while you're talking about debating, when I was in high school, we had to have a debate over Dr. Kevorkian, and I was assigned the position of supporting him. If you guys don't know who he is, look him up. I don't know if we can talk about everything he's done. And my parents were really against it, but they obviously were helping me do my side to support what he does. And even to this day, after doing that project, I don't know how I feel about him, because I can see both sides to the argument. There's a lot of gray there, and so it's okay to say, I don't know. I don't know how I feel about this particular topic, because there's so many different, and you also kind of like the walls of forgiveness, when you can actually think about or listen to what the other person is saying, even if you still don't agree with them, you understand their perspective. And so there's a wall of forgiveness there, and that brings your humanity out, your compassion out, because even with your friends, even with your partners, your parents, the people around you, you're not going to agree on everything.
Exactly. And everyone's got different boundaries, haven't they? Everyone's got different boundaries, and they're seeing their world through a completely unique perspective, and not just through their eyes, through what they're feeling, how they're interacting. And that will change as you grow and evolve as well. I'm laughing because my cat here, you should see, is rolling about like mad on my desk. If my computer suddenly goes blank, Idris, he is so stunning. Hello.
He's gorgeous.
I've got three of them in here with me again. Idris, don't make so much noise. But yeah, so it is, and I've struggled quite a lot throughout this whole debate with the more nefarious characters that we've been talking about in decisions, because I've generally thought, well, my God, if you're born into these situations, and that your parents have taught you that's what life is all about, at what stage do you wake up from the brainwashing and feel that there's a different choice available to you? And is there always a different choice available to them? And
who knows if what they're giving out into the world is actually it could be the positive people behind the scenes putting that out there to shift reality. So you don't even know if that's real anyway. So why waste energy hating on something when it could maybe just be an illusion anyway? And in truth, the whole of our earth reality is an illusion anyway, when you come down to it. So at that sort of base level, you don't want to get emotionally too attached to things, especially when you don't really know the full story, and you can't really, unless you're actually there in person and you can see, you just don't know.
Yeah,
I totally agree with that. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And my best friend, I've learned a lot from him. My best friend up in Canada, he's got such a good sense of humor. And for me, I've struggled a lot with anxiety and catastrophe thinking, and that's something that I'm aware of. And that's something he's taught me is, and I try to kind of channel him sometimes, like when something really stressful is going on, he'll just crack a joke. And he never takes things so seriously. And I know in some spiritual disciplines, they say that humor is the highest level of spiritual evolution, is to be able to laugh at yourself and laugh at the situation, you know? And so, and he's taught me a lot of that, to be able to like relax a little bit, you know.
I saw him. You did a video with him.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, and he's so funny. He's so funny. And our teacher in India, you know, where we go in India, it's so like, it's hard to get into the school. And when you're there, people take it very seriously, as they should. You're paying a lot of money. It's an education system, but it gets to the point where people get so worked up, and he'll just crack a joke. And our teacher loves him. He's like one of our teacher's favorite students. And it's because he's funny. And it's because he laughs at himself and he laughs at situations, and that keeps him peaceful. It keeps him very peaceful when he's that way, and people enjoy being around him, because it's not what
you started off with, Medyhne, is like a laughter releases, and it sets off a whole chain of chemical reactions in your body as well, that actually have physical healing and address all your hormonal levels and your neurotransmitter levels. So everything's all linked together. You know, this is the thing, you can't separate for any of them. And I've had to learn to laugh at myself a lot, because my family have been laughing at me for years. So.
I saw the funniest thing where they had this group of people surrounding this guy, and he was learning how to trust, and he was getting really nervous because he didn't know where he was going to, you know, do the drop, you know, and he was breathing really heavily, and everyone's going, you can do this, you can do this. And then he dropped, but he went the wrong way. He went forward instead of back, and he just fell flat. And oh my God, I was laughing for like a whole day after that, even though I did feel badly for him. But it was so funny, because the crux of the whole thing was him learning to trust. And he just fell.
Well, you know what? If the people aren't gonna catch you, the earth's gonna catch you. So he was caught just by Mother Earth.
I think so many people need so much laughter at the moment, don't they? And just need, it is really, really important, and finding people, you know, that you can have that joy or laughter with, and if not, just tickle yourself.
Or get a puppy.
Oh my God, my animals are hysterical, especially dogs. Yeah. I find dogs are comical. They're little comedians.
They're so funny. They got so much personality.
It's like an art family.
My dog's called Screech, and he's hysterical.
Yeah, I've got more pictures of my children. It's just awful. I've got like 10-year gaps where I've got not a single picture of the children, because all of us are just obsessed with taking pictures of the animals, because they're so cute, they're funny, they're just adorable, whatever they're doing. And then suddenly you think, oh, children, two-legged children as well. Yeah.
Oh, that's so funny. No, I'm the same way. I always feel bad when I have to take stuff off my phone. Like, I don't want to delete any pictures of my dog, even if it's like a picture of him sleeping in different places. And I feel guilty, like I've hurt him in some way.
So this week then, what are we all hoping for this week? What is your positive, what, you know, on a personal level and a collective level?
Well, I think for me that I'm going to be focusing not so much on the external of what's going on around me, but I'm going to really try to upgrade my own life and who I am by really focusing on strengthening my body and really helping myself in that way. So it's very constructive, because you know, you feel empowered when you're doing stuff for yourself like that. You know, all this other external stuff, it's sort of a little bit beyond you. So I mean, you can only do so much, but when it comes to yourself, when you're doing things for yourself in that way, and you feel like you're progressing forward, that's really great. And I mean, I know we don't have to do things to feel good, because again, we don't want to rely on that to make us feel good. But in addition to the stuff that I'm already doing to stay centered, I think working, I know that working on my physical is going to be really beneficial for me at the moment. Strengthening my body, because that will strengthen my mind. And also, I'm not, even though I don't attach to age, and I never, people say, oh, how old are you? I go, I can't remember.
Yeah.
No, I can't.
Thousands of lifetimes old. That's how old I am.
I think it's called selective amnesia.
Yes, I've got that too. Yeah.
So you know, even though that is a process that's happening on some level, I'm aware that with everything going on, I need to upgrade my toolkit. And so it's great to be able to. I've got heaps of clients, that I work with, but I also need to be walking the walk and talking the talk myself. So that's what I'm focusing on this week. And it's not easy for me, because some of these things are going to be a bit of a stretch for me that I'm not used to. But I'm saying to myself, I can do this. So yeah.
And I'm really excited for you. It's lovely. It's such a treat. What about you, Brice?
Well, I'll tell you guys, I tell my students this all the time. I've been sore for 15 years. So it was always shifting and changing, always when you have consistently exercised 6 days a week for that amount of time. And I'm always sore because the body is always changing. And there's something, I love that you talked about the strength training. I was telling I started a course last night, and with Ashtanga, with the type of yoga that I do, there's a lot of hypermobility, legs behind the head, very, very intense, but you will never hear a teacher tell you to get more flexible ever. But you will hear teachers always telling you to get stronger, because you hit on something that's when you develop that strength to push up into a handstand, or, even to put your legs behind your head, that takes core strength, to do a drop back stand up. Oh, girl, I'll get you. Listen, when we're able to meet up in person, I will get you into that posture, and we'll take a nice picture, and I'm just kidding. But there's something that switches inside of your head. And when you start to, not in a bad way, but like you start to understand how powerful you are, because strength, anybody can get stronger. Flexibility comes and goes. Flexibility will change over time when you work it. But it also, even for women, like when you're about to get your period, you might be a little stiffer, like our hormones affect that as well. But strength is consistently going to grow if you work it, and it makes you, and so it does kind of raise that vibrational understanding of yourself, because we can't change a lot of what's going on outside of us. We can't, but what we can do to affect that collective consciousness is work on ourselves. It's that man in the mirror that Michael Jackson sang about, right? And when you start to have that confidence, which is what a lot of exercise does for people, regardless of what it is, it gives them more confidence as their body molecularly changes. That's going to shift. That's going to help shift everything. And so I'm so glad you hit on that, Medyhne. And I will tell you, 15 years later, every morning when I get up to do my practice, I still debate on not doing it that day. So that doesn't change. You always have to have that discipline. You're always having to force yourself to do it. But I love that you hear that.
It's good to hear that, because it makes everyone can relate to that. I think it's great to hear that.
And the thing that keeps me going on my mat is I know one day I'm going to have to see my teacher again. So that's
and also it's how good and you feel physically, emotionally, spiritually when you've done it. And my thing for this week is actually sleep, to allow myself more time to rest, because of what I'm doing here. Like, it's late at night, be very late by the time I finish this. I'm going to allow myself to actually, if I need to have a nap during the day or something, which is something I never do because it's not really in my personality, but I'm going to concentrate for the next couple of weeks on allowing myself to get back into really good sleep patterns, because
Beautiful.
you know that you need to you repair physically and emotionally during different sleep patterns. And again, I need to walk the talk and do what I say. So
and also being able to do something differently that you haven't done in a way before, you know, creating new neural pathways, I think they talk about. So, you know, that's really important. I mean, another thing that we're all learning to do now is to receive support when we need it, you know, and that's something as human beings we're not good at accepting support. And I know there's some people out there this week working with me with something that has been a bit of a challenge, and they're all coming together to do some work on that for me, which is really beautiful. So a particular issue that I'm working with. So I know that I'm not used to accepting a lot of support, and so it's something I need to practice and get better at. I'm used to giving support to others, but not necessarily receiving it. So, you know, that's another thing that you know, creating new ways of being in the world is really important, and breaking old patterns. And on that note too, can I share? I've got a really beautiful free PDF on my website, which is it's actually a painting, and it's like a portal or an energetic sort of pattern that you can meditate on, and it can help you with your energy. So I'm always trying to think of ways that I can support the audience to help with ideas. And can I share this now, Catherine?
Yeah,
and
cool.
it's free if you go to my website, and you can just print it out, and you can just meditate on it. And it has a lot of different frequencies and energies within it, encodings. When I was talking to Taylor Moon the other day, she mentioned that that the artwork has encoding. So yeah, if anyone would like a copy of that, please go to my website, and it's a free PDF. Yeah.
Lovely. Well, thank you so much, ladies. I always enjoy our chat so much. We will be reporting back. So next week, you'll be seeing us all sitting here with our legs behind.
Brice must be a miracle worker.
This might be a very rude story. So if you have kids, just maybe mute it. But we have what we call asana shots in yoga, where they're postures where you put yourself, and they're professionally done. And it's for marketing is what it's for. Well, I had on shorts, like really short shorts. We sometimes practice almost like bathing suit shorts because it's so sweaty. And I put myself in Dvipadishirshasana, which is that posture with both legs behind your head. And I took the picture and I sent it to my best friend, who is hysterical and very, very gay. So, and he goes, "Girl, do not post that. We do not need to see your," I won't say it on YouTube, but he was like, "Do not post that. Do not show that picture. We don't need to see your hoo-ha," basically, like out in the film.
Oh, that's
what friends are for.
I know, right? Like he was like, I don't think he said girl, I think he said the B word. He was like, "Do not post that. I'm gonna save you from this. Do not post that shot."
Oh my God. I've always got a filter. I'm just like, my mum might see it.
I'm like, seeing this stuff like in the yoga room, you see it all the time. So you kind of like, as a teacher, I don't really think about anatomy like boy or girl bits. I'm thinking about like where are their muscles going. And so I'm not even thinking about the fact that this might look pretty pornographic on Instagram. So thank you, Chris, if you're watching, for saving my dignity.
Oh, well, on that note, we will be back for some more fun and laughter. So I really wish anyone who's watching this lots of laughter this week. I think you all deserve it. We all deserve it. And if we all laugh as much as possible this week, the world will be a better place.
Absolutely.
Thank you, ladies. See you next week.
You're so welcome.
Bye.
Bye.